Hey guys, welcome to Brian's Man Cave. So, well, I guess the Christmas season is upon us. Well, it is at the time I'm filming this anyways. And I thought, hey, I haven't done anything to do with Christmas, any of my videos, and what could I do? And, it's the time of year when I start watching a lot of my favorite Christmas movies. And so naturally I thought, why don't I do a top 5 of my favorite Christmas films? Now, I couldn't come up with just 5, so I moved it up to 6. So it's going to be my top 6. It was just hard. Even 6 was hard. There was just so many movies I wanted to slide into that position, but I couldn't do it. So I'm going to do my best here to try and categorize these, going from 6 down to 1. So the first film that I'm going to talk about is Elf. Now, this one, I remember watching this for the first time and I doubted it. I thought I was going to hate it. I thought maybe, Will Ferrell. Will Ferrell's one of those actors, you either like him or you hate him. I haven't heard people say, yeah, he's okay. Most of the time it's like, I hate Will Ferrell or I like Will Ferrell. I often like his film. I like his brand of comedy. And, this one, he is himself in this. I mean, he definitely has his Will Ferrell characteristics going through this whole movie. It's by Jon Favreau, who made this. James Caan, whatever how you pronounce that, it's in there. Pretty good movie. I like the type of film this is in the fact that it's kind of a displacement film, in where you take somebody out of their element and you shove them into something that's completely different than what they're used to. Kind of like the movie Crocodile Dundee from the 80s, where you took an Australian guy who lived in the bush and you dropped him into the big city. The same goes on with this. I mean, you take a guy a human that was raised by the elves in North Pole, and all of a sudden finds out he's human and wants to go and find his family, his father, in New York, and has to, conduct himself in New York. And I just think that it's really interesting the way you see him trying to adapt to the way things are in the real world, outside of his candy canes and his everything's so happy and merry and jolly up in the North Pole, to everybody's kind of miserable in New York. And the other thing to note is, if you're a fan of the original Rudolph and Frosty and all them, they really took all that stuff from those cartoons and put it into this movie. So you'll notice that when you go to watch it. So number 5 is Jingle All The Way. Now this is an Arnold film in a sense. But it's not a traditional Arnold film. So if you were a fan of those films, I guess they came out late 80s, mid 90s, somewhere around there, where Arnold kind of put his action costume in the back seat and kind of took on the comedy role, where he did Twins and he did Junior and he did I don't know, there was always a whole bunch of them. So if you kind of like that Arnie humor, where he tries to be funny, Kindergarten Cop even comes to mind. But the difference is, this is a film where Arnold actually plays a normal dude. I mean, he's a little bit step up from the normal, because he actually is like a president of the mattress company he works for. At least I think he is. He's pretty high up there. And so he does have a lot of money. So he's not like he's poor or anything like that. But this is just basically a story of the father who works too much, the kid who's disappointed, and the father just tries to redeem himself that one time of the year during Christmas and screws it all up. Now, the other thing that's great about this film is it does talk a lot about greed, and just the way the corporations, try and make you want to have a certain toy during the Christmas time. They make your kids want to have this toy, and people have to rush out and get it. And that's real life. That actually happens. Going back to the Cabbage Patch days, 1980s, when every kid needed a Cabbage Patch Kid. I was one of them. Everybody needed a Cabbage Patch Kid, and I can imagine my mom probably had to make that mad dash to the store and try and get one before all the other parents got it. So they do that in this movie too. They created a fictional toy called Turbo Man. It's kind of like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and he has to get this toy for his kid. And so there's a lot of crazy stuff that happens. Real fun movie, a lot of fun lines. One of the best lines where he yells at Phil Hartman, another character in the movie, because he's eating his cookies and he's in his wife's house trying to, hit on his wife, and Arnold's out trying to find this toy and he yells at him. He tells him to put the cookie down. One of the best scenes in the whole movie. But anyways, yeah, that's this one here. a couple other stars in it, like Jim Belushi show up. Mini-Me's in there, little tiny part. He plays a little Santa Claus. And also of note, Sinbad plays a pretty good performance too. I wasn't really familiar with his work that much before I saw him in this movie. I mean, I was aware of him. And I actually thought he complimented Arnold pretty good. I mean, his jokes were spot on. I mean, his timing was great. He had a lot of great parts. He plays a kind of a dysfunctional mailman, so it's kind of funny. So moving on, we're going to go to Scrooged. I saw this in theater with my friend, I remember. This was like 80s. 88 probably. I don't know if it's written there. Yeah, 88. I remember seeing it in theater. I don't think I knew what I was in for. Neither did my friend. I mean, his mom took us and we went to go and see it. I think we just knew that it was Peter Venkman in there from Ghostbusters. Now, it's Bill Murray, obviously. Great actor. One of the best comedians ever. He kind of had a hiatus during that time and kind of came back from Ghostbusters to do this, which is great. I mean, it's another ghost film, but this is more Christmas-centric. It's obviously, you know, a take on the Christmas Carol, and I like how they kind of make it their own. Now, I heard that Bill Murray had a lot to say with the script. He had to, like, you know, take over and kind of scrap part of it and rewrite it. That's typical of Bill Murray. He won't play in anything unless he really approves of the script. He really likes it. But in this movie, I mean, there's a lot of great scenes. They really do the Christmas story, Christmas Carol, pretty well. Kind of a modern take on it. He's a shrewd businessman. He doesn't care about Christmas. He doesn't care about the people around him. He just wants to work. He just wants to make money. And, of course, he gets visited by the three ghosts who show him otherwise. Now, the thing to note about this one that's a little bit different is in the original Christmas Carol, it happens while Scrooge is sleeping. So in this one, it happens while he's during the day. So it's kind of different. Like, the ghosts kind of actually show up and interfere with him while he's outside in the real world. So crazy stuff happens where people think he's kind of crazy. The other thing is the humor in this. It's kind of dark. Like, it's a dark kind of comedy. Almost could be a Halloween almost film. They don't go too much into like the you know the feelings and all that. They kind of show how mean he is. So it's kind of weird. But I mean, overall, great film. I love it. Watch it every year, ever since I've seen it in theater. So now the next one, and you know, this was hard for me to kind of categorize these because, you know, I kind of like them all the same way. But A Christmas Story is going to be number 3 on my list. And it's one of those things where we just watched it a lot when I was a kid. It was just on every year for Christmas. And I remember my friend, he had it on tape, and we would watch it on his VCR every once in a while, even when it wasn't Christmas. You know, it's just one of those good old-fashioned family fun Christmas. And it's comedy. I mean, it's not like it's serious. It's not a drama role. You'll notice that a lot of the movies I'm picking here are all comedies, where they kind of make light of the situations. It's funny. There's jokes. Not necessarily the more serious stuff like The Miracle on 34th Street, or you know, those kind of films. White Christmas. I don't know. There's a bunch of them that are more serious. What's the other one? It's a Wonderful Life. But this, I kind of like this one, and I think a lot of people do. It was a cult hit. Kind of didn't do too well in theaters. I think people didn't really understand it when they saw it. They were like, why would I want to go see that? But once people started watching it, they're like, wow, this is brilliant. And it takes place in the 40s, so it's kind of like a different timeline. But it's a lot of the same stuff that we go through today, where it's mostly about a kid who just wants that special toy for Christmas. And in this case, it's a Red Ryder BB gun, which his mother pretty much doesn't want him to have. But he goes through a lot of trouble in this movie to try and convince his mom why he should have this BB gun, including things like there's going to be creeping marauders coming into the backyard, he's going to have to defend the family, to all different kinds of scenarios he comes up with. The cast in this is what makes it great, though. I mean, the father, I think, Darren McGavin, I believe his name is, well, he was. He's no longer alive, but he really nails down the father role. I mean, he just is your typical standard American father. Goes to work, comes home, just wants to sit on the couch, have a beer, watch his TV, you know, read his paper or whatever. Like, he's a very traditional man who just has a simple life and just wants his life to be simple. And he's got this mother who's trying to keep the family together. And of course they just go through all these wacky things, like things that just go on in everyday life. You know, furnace breaks down, he needs to put up the tree. There's scenarios where Ralphie's being bullied, he's got to deal with a bully. And all this is just creeping up towards Christmas Day. And so, you know, obviously at the end, it's all about getting the Red Ryder BB gun, including having to go meet Santa Claus, which is one of the creepiest Santa Clauses you can imagine. I mean, this guy is like terrifying, and every kid that has to sit on his lap just starts crying immediately. And you know, he feels he needs to go and tell Santa that he needs the BB gun, and of course Santa is siding with the parents at this point. The popular line in this one, "You'll shoot your eye out," which you'll hear quite a bit. There's also, you know, a few other classic scenes like the leg lamp and things like that. So, I mean, most people are already familiar with this one anyways. They play it pretty much all day long on Christmas Day. At least they do where I live anyways. I remember last year, it was just like back to back to back, they were just playing this movie. But it's definitely worth the watch during the Christmas season. So the the second one, not at the last one yet, the second one, and that would be National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Another comedy, another not so serious movie. I don't actually have the CD for it, or the DVD, I mean. I don't have it, but I mean, it's on every Christmas. Most of these are on every Christmas. And I think I have it recorded on my box or something. But anyways, I definitely love that movie. Another one I've seen in theaters, and I cracked up the whole time, and I've watched it every year since. It's always on my list. I could watch that like 2-3 times during a Christmas season. It's a different style of National Lampoon. If you're used to the Vacation, National Lampoon's Vacation, and European Vacation, and Vegas Vacation, because they're traveling, they go somewhere and hell follows them. This one, they stay home for the Christmas holidays, and hell follows the relatives that come to visit. They basically congeal into their house and try and live through the Christmas season with family in the house. The actors in this one are pretty decent. I mean, you got John Galecki, who's now, you know, the Big Bang Theory guy. Juliette Lewis. Juliette Lewis. I was going to say Julia Louis-Dreyfus, but she's also in there too. So there's a pretty big cast in there as well. Doris Roberts, and I don't know. There's a lot of great cast members. Just the antics that Clark Griswold gets through in this movie, and again, it kind of goes with a lot of what people will do during the holidays. You know, you got to put up with family. You got to get out there. I mean, there's a huge scene where he's putting up the Christmas lights, and it's a whole, you know, crap is happening where he's falling off the roof, and you know, little things like that. He gets locked in the attic. I think that's one of my favorite parts, is when he gets locked in the attic. And he puts on the home movies, and he's sitting there tearing up watching these 1950s reel-to-reel movies, and of course the family come home, and he's just sitting on the door with a latch to the attic, and the lady opens it up, and he just flies through the ceiling and then lands, like things like that. It's slapstick comedy that only Chevy Chase could have pulled off, and I think that's really what made it work. And of course, we can't forget Cousin Eddie. He's in most, I think he's in all of them, I don't know, but Cousin Eddie really steals the show as well. You just can't not laugh at that guy. You know, he's emptying his toilet into the sewer, he's knocking things over, he's a klutz. He goes to, he takes it literal when Clark says he would like to see his boss here with a ribbon so he could kick his butt. You know, so he actually goes out and kidnaps a guy. So there's just a lot of crazy antics that happen during this Christmas Vacation. And the thing is that, like, there's no real plot other than just trying to have a great Christmas. And of course, it's almost impossible for the Griswolds to do anything right. And so, yeah, I mean, there's just so many funny scenes in it. I just love the movie. I'm always going to watch that one. It's always going to be on my top list. Probably always going to be number 2. So now number 1, and this one is breaking away from my typicals in that it's not a comedy. It's actually more of a serious one, and it's actually, I think, one of the best, or the best Christmas movie ever, and that would be A Christmas Carol. Now, obviously, this is based on a book by the same name, And but the one that I watch mostly, and pretty much the only one I like to watch, is the original. Sorry, not the original, because there was one before it. But I look at this one as probably like the one that stands, over all the other ones. And that's with Alistair Sim from the 1950s. Now, from what I understand, there's two versions of it. It's called A Christmas Carol, and I believe that one's in black and white. And then there's another one called Scrooge, and it's in color. It's basically the same movie. They colorized it. They did this. I don't know when they actually colorized it. Obviously, it would have been much later in time. And I can watch them both. I think I prefer watching the color version. I kind of got used to it, but it's a movie that I've always watched from when I was a kid. I used to watch it with my parents, and it's kind of a tradition for me to watch it every Christmas Eve. Out of all the Christmas movies out there, that's the one that I would watch every Christmas Eve. At least I try to, anyways. And the good thing is, it does play on Christmas Eve every night as well, every Christmas Eve. So you'll notice it'll be on a lot of the stations back to back, and they'll just keep replaying it. There was an older one in the 30s, I believe, but it's not as good. I've watched a part of it. But definitely the 1950, and it tries to follow the book. I've read the book. There's some slight differences, but I mean, it's pretty good. I mean, it really carved out how these characters would look. The Ghost of Christmas Past, the Ghost of Christmas Present and Future. They really tried to capture what it was described in the book. And the whole Scrooge story itself, just like I was saying with Scrooged, with Bill Murray, it's the same kind of concept where this guy cares more about money, cares more about himself, corporate greed essentially, doesn't care about Christmas, doesn't care about his Clark, Bob Cratchit, who has a huge starving family, little tiny Tim, who's kind of crippled, and, he just doesn't care. He just worries more about Bob working, and, Bob asks for that one day off a year for Christmas, and of course Scrooge has to give him a little bit of a hard time, but then it eventually comes through and says, just take it. And he doesn't like it, but hey, you got to take it. He has to at least give him this one day. So, and then of course overnight, Christmas Eve, he's visited by his previous partner, Jacob Marley, who he worked with, who's also a shrewd businessman, and apparently died 7 years prior. And now comes back as a ghost to tell him that you got to, smarten up, essentially. You got to start to worry more about people, worry more about everything else other than money. Because, obviously when you die, you can't take it with you. And of course, the Ghost of Christmas Past goes to show him that he used to have a heart, he had a girlfriend, he cared about things, into his present time. But the present, they don't really show him, they show all the people around him that are kind of, problematic. They show Bob Cratchit and, his troubles and dealing with his family. And, of course, we go to the future, where you see that Tiny Tim has passed away, which, they don't really say it, but you get you know that that's what happened. And, of course, he sees, his untimely death. Now, obviously, he's an older man, so it's not like it's that untimely, but he still realizes that that's what's going to happen to him. And I guess he realized at that point he's going to die cold and alone. So he changes his ways, and that's the classic Christmas Carol, and that's you'll see that throughout Christmas time. You'll see it through different, Mickey's Christmas Carol, Muppet Christmas Carol. There's all different kinds of Christmas Carol stories out there, but it gives you that kind of sensation of this is the time of year when we need to really think about reflect on what we're doing in our lives, and not just only focus on what we're doing, and that's it. So anyways, I hope everybody has a great holiday season. If it is a holiday season for you at this point, I hope everybody has a great Christmas or whatever you celebrate. And I'll see you in the new year. Anyways, hope you liked the video. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Talk to you later.